What he's released is the Heher Commission's recommendations. He hasn't released government's recommendations in that regard. So we're still waiting to hear whether government accepts these recommendations or not. For now, it's simply the Commission's recommendations. If government accepts these recommendations, then we're in a different game, because then they have to start thinking about implementing them. Because at this moment, this is not government policy yet. It only becomes government policy when government itself says, we're now saying A, B, C, and D. So that's the first thing that I'd like to make. The second is, I think it's an exhaustive report. I think it makes a whole series of recommendations, many of which I agree with. I think many of my colleagues agree with. I think it correctly analyzes that South Africa is in a financial crisis with regards to higher education, that we've got to rethink the financing of higher education. I think it makes the point that we need to address the challenge of the TVET sector, that the vast majority of poor people go to the TVET sector, and we need to correct and build appropriate institutions. It calls for free education in the TVET sector, and it calls for a massive investment in that TVET sector. I think that makes a lot of sense. On higher education, it makes a series of recommendations. One is the increase of the government subsidy from 0.7% of GDP to 1% of GDP. I think that's absolutely important. It correctly analyzes that part of the reasons we've had a fees crisis is because the per capita government subsidy has been declining. You can't fix the fees question without fixing the subsidy question, and they're absolutely right in that. And so I'm very supportive of that. I think it will add something like 15 billion to the program into higher education, and that's something that we must be very supportive of. It then makes the suggestion, if you like, for an income contingent loan.
Right.
What that basically means is that effectively you will get a loan for tuition, accommodation, and subsistence for students both in the public and private universities, and that you start paying that back through the tax system. And it gets paid through the tax system when you start earning and you reach a particular income level. Now that's a model that is used in the UK. It's partly used in the United States in different variations. Not the United States, in a different variation in Australia and in Canada. And there is some comparative success of that model. There's a danger with that model. And the danger with that model is you can end up getting a high debt, and that's what they're finding out in the UK, is that there's a debt problem for graduates and they can't pay back the loan. And that is something that we need to think through. So I am aware of, if you're asking from Adam Habib's side, I would have preferred a graduate tax model where effectively we deal with the graduate tax, where all graduates in the society pay a tax that pays for the new generation of people going into the university system. This report didn't go for that. They argued against it. They argued for an income contingent loan, and they argued that you simply use the graduate tax and bonds as a means to finance the cash flow in the initial years. I'm not particularly opposed to it. I'm not sure the students will accept it, because it has if you like, a loan element which comes with the debt,
yes.
And they've said on multiple occasions that they will not accept it. It's worth saying, however, that it will resolve the problem at the entrance of universities, because every year we have this problem. Now what they're saying is we've created a mechanism for the financing right at the beginning. So I think that that's something that is its advantage. The disadvantage, it comes with the debt, and whether the students will accept that is something. Whatever we do, we must think through the financing of this model and how it's going to be financed, etc. And that worries me, because when I hear that the deputy DG of the budget office resigns, I get the impression that that hasn't been thought through. Why is he resigning then? And so I'm worried about that. Have we thought through, is this just a populist political gesture, or is it a serious policy implementation plan that is thoughtfully implemented and thoughtfully financed? That's the first question that worries me. The second is, as I said, all this means now is the Heher Commission's recommendation. What we have not heard is what's government's view of these recommendations. And until we hear from government that we agree or don't agree with this, and this is why we're going to do this, we can't respond, because as of now, this is not a position that is a government position. In fact, what we're hearing from the press reports, as you well know, is that government may, and the president himself may be not keen on the Heher Commission report, that he has got another plan afoot, and that other plan is going to cost 40 billion, and he's asked government treasury to find 40 billion rand. Now, if the commission's report comes out in that kind of way, when all of the rumors are that it's not going to be taken seriously and there's going to be effectively something else being done, what is happening? This is not the way we should, a democratic government, an efficient government manages issues. This is like we're bumbling away and we're creating one crisis after another. We release a Heher Commission report and we're talking about another financing mechanism. It's creating more confusion than coherence. And that's what worries me about it as it plays out now.